Good. Good afternoon, everyone. So we are continuing with Mishnah 4, which is the Mishnah that from Yossi ben Yezer, and he was discussing the idea of learning from Torah scholars. I'm just going to try to get it onto the screen for everybody here. Got to share. Sorry here. Here we go. So the first part of the Mishnah told us that there was Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan who received the tradition. And Yossi ben Yoezer said three things. Your house should be a gathering place for sages, which we talked about yesterday. And here it says, you should cleave to the dust of their feet. Misabek is trying to attach yourself to. And you shall thirstily drink their words. So two different angles to the idea of learning from people who are sages, who are scholars. So number one, in terms of the idea of the dust of their feet. So first of all, practically, physically speaking, back in the day, in those days, the way it worked, first of all, they didn't have floors like we have. They did have dirt floors. So there was dust on the floor. The teacher would be sitting close to the floor, maybe even on the floor, and the students would be around him, and they would be sitting on the floor. Then they're in there. You have automatically the dust of the feet. There's another idea that says if you walk behind a sage, follow a sage, right? You follow a sage, you walk behind them, the dust gets kicked up. You're walking in the dust of their feet. So it's actually taken towards something physical that's real, but on the other hand, there's the message, and the message is when you're following them, you're doing what you're trying to learn from them by following them. So you even though you're getting the dust of their feet, you're still following them. And same thing with sitting before them, you're in the dust there, but that's how you're going to learn, by being close to them and listening carefully. Another angle of dust of their feet is also to be humble, right? If you want to learn, you have to be humble. That it's very difficult to learn from someone when you are not feeling that that person has more to teach you than you know, right? And if you think you know everything, you're not going to be able to learn much. So there's the idea of humility is definitely a prerequisite for being able to acquire any learning, but especially Torah learning. Now, in terms of humility, so we also going to learn later on that you don't be ashamed to ask questions, because questions are important. But on the other hand, the idea of asking questions is to find out the answer from someone who is going to know more than you do. It's not just to show how much. Sometimes people ask questions, they're not really asking a question, they're really trying to show how much they know. So the question is more of a statement or something to put it out there to show that, oh, look, I know so much. That's not humility. We actually have an idea of the word avak, which the dust here. We find that in upcoming parsha, not this week, but a couple of weeks from now, where we had the angel having a wrestling match with Yaakov, and the same term was used, ovek, to because when you wrestle, you also, if you're wrestling where the ground is, you're bringing up the dust. So we want to make it that you're working on it. You're not a wrestle as in a fight, but to wrestle in terms of to try to get the learning. You got to work, right? It's if you really want to learn, it's not just sitting back and hearing. It's you got to put your whole self into it, and you're working at it, and you work up a sweat really if you're really getting into it deep. And we see in the Talmud is full of discussion, debates, right, arguments back and forth, and that's how real learning goes on. And if you go to a yeshiva with a study hall, the people are sitting across from each other, and they're having it out. They're not just quietly. It's very noisy and sometimes they're even yelling at each other to say, this is the point, this is how you understand it, that doesn't make sense, etc. So you're bringing up the dust when you're getting excited about it. Okay, so the latter part talks about the idea of oh, actually, one other point, right, is that by sitting at their feet, right, you're also showing, as we said, humility. But one of the problems, and especially I think in today's world, is a bigger problem, is that everyone thinks they know everything, especially if I ever learned anything. So therefore I know everything. Plus, I can always go on Google or ChatGPT and tell you everything that we need to know, and therefore you're less likely, potentially, to listen to someone and say, "Oh, that person knows more than me," because after all, I have an education too. I know so much, and therefore the aspect of humility to be able to listen to the other person really comes into play, because we need to have respect for that person who we're learning from in order to truly learn from them. The latter part of the Mishnah said to drink their words thirstily. So first of all, one angle is, even in a regular, the words doesn't have to only be Torah words. When we learn from sages, not just with the Torah teachings that they give us, we learn how they conduct themselves in daily life. One of the things that a person should do is to observe, how do great people, great Torah scholars, how do they conduct themselves just on their interactions with other people? How do they, how do they eat? How do they conduct themselves? Because we can learn from them just how to be doing daily routines in a proper manner, because there's differences in how you do things. And even the regular conversation that they have is worthy of study, the Gemara tells us. Drinking something thirstily also is different than just drinking it regularly, right? When you're thirsty, you have a greater desire for something. And so you don't want to be where it's like, oh, I don't need anything now. I'm full. If I'm full, I don't need anything. We don't want to be at that point when it comes to learning. When it comes to learning, we always want to be in a situation where we want more. That's the goal. So we always want to be searching for more. In fact, the Rabbi Yonah points out that when a person is so-called thirsty, then even something that's maybe not taste so good is going to be good. You're going to want. When you're full, then even something that tastes good you don't want. So the goal is to be in a situation where even if you know what, if you teach me something and I don't know the reason for it, I'll still be happy to get it, right? I don't have to know everything and understand why all the time. It's nice to understand why, but a lot of times you need to understand how and what. And even if you don't understand why, it's okay. And if we're drinking it thirstily, then we will feel that as long as we learned it, that's also good enough. And Rabbi Hutner actually points out an interesting idea, that when it comes to water, we know that the bracha on water is shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. However, you don't always have to make a bracha if you want to drink water, because water has no taste. So you only make a bracha on water when you're thirsty. If you're drinking water, let's say with a pill or something for medicine, you're not thirsty, you're just drinking of that, we don't make a bracha on the water. So we only make a bracha on water when we're drinking it because we're thirsty. If it's a flavored item, even if you're not thirsty, you would make a bracha. So he said that same thing with Torah. We need to be thirsty in order to be maximizing the benefits from it. Just like with water, you need to be thirsty for it to count. So Torah also, you got to be thirsty for it. And if you're thirsty for it, then you'll be able to maximize the benefits of the Torah study as well. And one other point, that the idea of thirsty is having a desire, right? And interestingly enough, when it comes to study, usually if you're thirsty, you drink. Okay, I'm not thirsty anymore. When it comes to learning, the more you drink, the more you want, right? So you get into it. When you really enjoy the study, you want more. So the thirst is really not assuaged. The thirst is really getting more the more you do. And when it's something that like that where you want more because it's interesting you, that's the goal, to keep that thirst going. So we drink the words of Torah thirstily, and both in our own study, but certainly when we're learning from those who know more than us. Have a great day, everyone.